Teacher in a classroom.
Yeah.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's 11:30. We're going to go ahead and kick off our pre-commission agenda. And I want to state by correcting the record from last week, I mistakenly said that our feedback was due to staff on the integrated 5-year work plan by Friday of last week. And it's actually due May 3rd. So lucky for all of us, we've got a little bit more time to compile our lists. Yeah, not that that means that it's any less urgent, right, Christy? Right. Exactly. But with that, that's all I have. Do we have any housekeeping items, questions about the agenda?
Madam President?
Commissioner Hanson.
Yeah, I just want to do a shout out. People in engineering and drainage don't often get kudos. There's a project, or there's a need out in on Sun Tree, and a couple of our engineers, Darren Miles and Darren Carroll, has been working with the neighbors there. The neighborhood, when it was built, the developer did inappropriate drainage, and there's some major changes that have to take place. I'm going to have to ask legal how we can go back and kind of collect that cost of remediation that we're going to have to do and do this year, because it's getting worse and worse. But basically what happens is the neighborhood floods. And so I just want to really appreciate the folks who've gone out there each time and to figure out what the remediation has to be, and it's noticed, and kudos to that, and glad this year we're finally gonna get it taken care of, because it's been a problem since the subdivision was created.
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney.
I do have a couple of questions on items 2 and 3 on the consent agenda, so when we get to that, I'd like to just take a minute. It won't be long, I don't think, but simple questions.
Do you want to do that now or after the director's report?
If now works, I'd be happy to ask those now. All right. Item 2, the stacker approval. First of all, I correct me if I'm wrong, it appears that this was not a competitive bid. This was just, we got a bid from one supplier and went with that number. Is that correct? Because I didn't see multiple bids. I only saw the one amount.
Sure. Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, we went out for RFP. We did have 2 bidders on this. Through the spec process and our bid requirements, both were sent back to each bidder, and one bidder was deemed unresponsive after that. So we gave them an opportunity to correct the mistakes, and they did not.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, I assume this stacker is for what, aggregate material? Is that what it'll be used for in our gravel pit?
Yeah, Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, we use it both at our gravel pits, plus we bring them in to load salt in our sand salt sheds.
Okay. And now I noticed that we budgeted 60,000 and the cost is over 140,000. Is that because of inflation? Did we just, why the discrepancy there?
Inflation wouldn't describe all of it. When we originally spec'd this over a year ago, we spec'd a little smaller size. Through the process, we deemed that we needed to go a little taller to bring that material up, as we're limited in space in like the sand salt sheds and in those areas.
Okay, so this is a
different
larger
spec
item than we originally intended, and inflation has caused prices to go up, and that accounts for the, what, 120% increase?
Mainly on the spec side.
In cost relative to the budget,
Yes,
okay. All right then, item number 3, this signal agreement with the city of Boise. Whoever can speak to that, I just want to clarify, what are our costs on this? Is the city of Boise bearing all of the cost in installing these signals, or some of that was unclear from the staff report?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, for the record, Ryan Head, Deputy Director of Development and Technical Services. The only thing that ACHD is bearing is the provision. We sold equipment to them. So they purchased equipment from us. They paid for the installation, and long-term they will be ours because they're in our right-of-way, but they paid for the installation and the purchase of the equipment.
So basically no cost to us. They're doing it. We just sold the stuff to them at cost and they installed it and that's it, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right, great, thank you very much. That's all.
All right, Director.
Madam President, if I could, we have some good news on the regular agenda. I would like to ask the commission to refer back to staff indefinitely items 1 and 3. When you get to that point, we have come to agreement on both number 1 and 3 condemnations. Okay, commissioners, good morning and such, and a little bit of a different director's report today. I'd like to start off with introducing Nicole, our head of Commuter Ride. She is going to present to you Commuter Ride's rebranding effort. I think you'll be very impressed when it's all said and done. And then after that, I have a couple items I'd like to share with you.
Good morning, Madam President and Commission. For the record, Nicole Stern, ACHD Commuter Ride Manager. So talking a little bit about our presentation here on our rebrand. As you can see, these are old Commuter Ride logos, just to give you an idea. And then see where we are currently, just looking at how we apply our brand to our vans as well as any collateral. And as you all remember, last April, our communications department did an amazing, stellar job on rebranding ACHD. And so through that, they had done a community survey, which we found at the Commuter Ride department to be very important. We had found that there is a lot of individuals from our community that are not aware that the Commuter Ride department is part of Ada County Highway District, as well as looking at how people find information and what they want to find. And so Commuter Ride is obviously there as an opportunity for us to educate more. And then here on the on the ACHD website, where is it that people are going to access Commuter Ride information? And so with that, we did, Commuter Ride, we did our own market research this year. We had found that we really wanted to capitalize on the work that communications did such a stellar job with and be able to bring Commuter Ride into the ACHD forefront. And so with our market research we had found that that Stoltz Marketing had went out and specifically interviewed ACHD employees, as well as then they sent surveys to ACHD employees, as well as our business liaisons, our point of contacts, as well as then our van pool participants and our Share the Ride Idaho users. And so through those interviews and that survey, this is the information that we had found, where yes, people do agree that yes, we are innovative. We are one of the most successful van pool programs in the nation. We are friendly, we're approachable. There is, however, a lack of buy-in from colleagues and staff, just unaware of what Commuter Ride is and how we fit into the fold of ACHD, as well as then looking at not knowing exactly what our mission is. And so we really wanted to take that and realign ourselves. And so one of the things that was asked in the survey was describing Commuter Ride in 3 words. And so people said motion, convenient, community, fun, helpful, green, van pool. And so we pulled out some pieces from there and really focused on what is it that Commuter Ride is. It's movement, it's quality of life, it's connecting people to work, it's professional. We really want people to be able to explore their options, whether it's van pool, carpool, biking, walking, transit. And so we utilized our in-staff, Commuter Ride staff. Our outreach coordinator, Jen Anderson, is actually a graphic designer by trade. And so she worked with our communications department, and she designed, and communications was consulted on a new logo for Commuter Ride. And so this is our new logo for Commuter Ride. And so really ACHD commuter ride. It's getting you from point A to B. And so we also, with that, it's getting you to work, vanpool, carpool, rideshare, community, and more. And so we have different applications that people, our partners and us can do. So connecting you to work, that is the one thing that we want to be able to explain to people. It's getting you to work, but it's also more than that. And then with that, we also have our branding of May in Motion. It's that time of year again, and we couldn't help but want to rebrand that because people do not know that it is a commuter ride program. That's commuter ride campaign. So we really wanted to tag in ACHD commuter ride in that. And May in Motion is fun. It's electric. It gets businesses involved. And so Jen also rebranded May in Motion. And so we're really excited to kick that off next week at our kickoff that I can talk a little bit more later. And then we have a new program, that's our 3-year pilot program that is specific to neighborhood outreach and getting people in specific neighborhoods every year of our 3-year program that Rebecca Barr, our community outreach specialist, she is going to be focused on. And so that program is called Walk, Bike, and Ride. And so making sure ACHD commuter ride, the name is in there. So people know that is an ACHD program. And then we just wanted to show you what it looks like with our logos on some items, as well as our vans. And then we have our minivan as well as our large 14 and 10 passenger vans. And then of course, we'll be using all of the palettes that is ACHD, as well as our type font. And then just to make you aware of what it looks like for our rollout, here this fiscal year, we're going to be working on our business collateral, our basic website updates, as well as our vanpool assets, just looking at what is it that's branded unrelated to fleet that needs to be updated, our swag. And then, of course, May in Motion, like I said, is just about to be kicked off. And so we'll be really focusing on that, our Walk, Bike, and Ride initiative. And then, and that will be focused throughout fiscal year 24. And then looking at fiscal year 25, we are slated to receive a grant from Compass that will pay for our complete new website that will be done in 25. And then branching out then and being able to complete our fleet over the next 3 to 4 years. We do have a fleet of 106 vans. And so being able to get those vans logistically branded, as well as budget constraints as well. And so I stand for any questions.
Wow, thank you, Nicole. Commissioner Goldthorpe.
Yes. I'm curious as to what the marketing plans are for this as far as increasing the number of routes that we service. Seems to stay about the same plus or minus every year, and I know we're growing a lot.
Yeah, so we do, right now we're working with our SOLT marketing firm and really looking at what our vision and our mission is, as well as our strategy for that. We have recently done some vanpool videos, which we'll be then promoting and putting on our website as well as social media to build up just the awareness of vanpool and get more people into the vanpools. And so that is something we're working on right now.
So here's the rest of my question is, how do we get that out to businesses to say, sign here, we want you to sponsor a couple of buses, or we want your employees to be using these?
Yeah, so we have our outreach specialists that during May in Motion, they focus heavily, it's on businesses. And so educating the businesses on what it is the vanpool is, what it is that commuter ride, how we can help them not only with vanpool, but how else their employees can get to and from work. And so with that, we have calls in almost every single day about different opportunities that businesses are looking for. And so that is something that ebb and flows, but we will be continuing to do outreach.
Do we have an outside sales force, or do we rely on these incoming calls?
We have our outreach specialists that work with the business community, but they are our sales team, so to speak. And then word of mouth from other businesses, as well as then our van pools themselves. And then of course we do have our social media, LinkedIn, which works with businesses as well. So we're getting the outreach specialists out there.
Just one last question. As we utilize the outreach specialists, do they have any kind of activity goals to get folks involved or knowledgeable? I know you can't control results, but you can control activities.
Oh yeah, definitely. We always have a goal of how many businesses we want to reach. Specifically right now, we have how many businesses we want to reach May in Motion, because we know that that is a cornerstone campaign that educates businesses on how they can really incentivize and support their employees' commutes. And so that is a huge thing where we're looking at how many businesses we can get involved, how many outreach events we do with those businesses, how many contacts then we make within a week. And so, yes, we do have specific key performance indicators.
Commissioner McKinney?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Nicole, just quickly, talk to me about the costs of the rebranding effort. It strikes me that one of the costs, of course, if we're putting a new logo on all of the vans, there's a cost there, but I presume we're wrapping things, we're not repainting vans. Is that a fair assumption?
That is a very good assumption,
okay.
Commissioner. So the way that it works is we will be doing it over the 4 years. So we're going to start with 10 this year. It is an estimated about $500 per van. So that's taking off the graphics and then applying those graphics. Okay. And so we're looking at about $13,000 a year. That is something we will budget. That is something that we put into our budget. We wanted to make sure to be fiscally responsible with that. And that's why we're extending it out farther, as well as just logistics of getting to and from those vans that are all over the Treasure Valley.
Sure. And is that the biggest cost item in this whole process?
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
That is the biggest cost.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that sounds fairly reasonable. So I think that's good. But thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Nicole, I just want to say this is really great timing. Obviously, you were really intentional with this. So with like May in Motion and that multiple new branding and logos. And I think you're really right on the money with most people don't know that Commuter Right is a part of ACHD. So I think that was really intuitive, and the assessment of like where people are going to our website, right? So I really appreciate you guys taking a look at that and taking that initiative to address it, because we know how widely loved and supported this program is, but we want people to be using it and know how to get there and figure out how to bring that program to their organization or whatever. So yeah, just great job.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a huge team effort. So thank you.
Madam President, Commissioners, again, thank you. We're very proud of the Commuter Right operation. And as Nicole said, it is the best in the nation across all avenues. Commissioner Goldthorpe, to your question, Commuter Right also attends majority of the events that we put on to include Touch a Truck, all the different organizations. They have the very great outreach program when it comes down to doing some things that are maybe outside of the norm. And for the commission, you might have noticed last week that gas prices went up 7 cents per gallon. Every time gas prices go up, Commuter Right gains another route or two going forward. Not that I'm hoping that gas prices go up, but there is a direct correlation to that. Commissioners, we've been watching very carefully, of course, the House and the Senate operations so far. And as of this morning at 11:30, House Bill 637 has remained in general order. We will continue to watch that. If there's any movement whatsoever, we'll make sure that you all are well aware of those actions. I do want to thank Jennifer Lloyd and Joe and our maintenance crew. As you know, it was a rather difficult winter operations that we went through, and a lot of moving parts. We did have very few vehicle issues, and We are still working through those and to understand what we learned, how we can better support the fleet and our operators across the board, and those will be coming shortly. But as you all recall, they already had their winter hot wash. A lot of great ideas from not just the leadership, but most importantly, the operators on what we could do maybe a little differently moving forward, which will relay into chip seal operations across the board. But we have a couple of things that we're still wrapping up, and we'll get back to you as soon as those are done. Commissioners, just for some dates as reminders, and I want to thank Commissioner Pickering and Commissioner Gold. They will be accepting the Idaho Business Review's inaugural Empowering Women Award with several of us on April 4th. On April 17th, those are the WTS annual awards. As I think I shared with you last time, we have three great members of the team that will be honored in that for Woman of the Year, Rosa Parks and the Ray LaHood Award. And so if you are able to make that, if you let Stacy know, we are purchasing seats and tables and tickets right now. So if that's something that's on your calendar, we'd greatly appreciate you having the ability to be there. As a reminder, the 21st to 24th is the Boise Chamber Leadership Conference. And for those of you that let us know that you were attending, everything's been arranged and such, and we're on board to make that move forward for you all. One of the signature events of the Ada County Highway District will reoccur on April 25th, and that is the Bring Your Child to Work Day. It's always an amazing event here. All the teams do a tremendous job. I will receive 4 phone calls, as I do every year, from the citizens surrounding the Adams complex, letting me know how dumb this is, because of all the kids playing on the horns and such. I know exactly who they are. I know what time they're going to call and such. But anyway, you're more invited to join us. And for those of you that have children, you might consider bringing them along so they can pilot a sweeper, play with some of the equipment that's out there, play in the giant sand pile. And I will direct maintenance again this year, not to spread the rumor that there's a $100 bill buried in the sand pile. Parents come to me and they blame me for that when it's all said and done. And then on the 30th of April, we're going to have the all staff at Adams. So, Commissioners, that's my update today. I'd like to congratulate Nicole and Commuter Ride again, well within the 4 initiatives of accelerating innovation, well within the 10 imperatives that we're working through, and they're doing a great job.
Thanks, Director. Any questions for staff? All right, we'll be at ease until noon. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's now 12 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Please join us in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thanks for everyone that's joining us in person and online today. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next order of business is to adopt the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered routine and are action items unless otherwise noted. The consent agenda is enacted by one motion. There is no separate discussion on items on the consent agenda. If a commissioner or citizen would like, they may request any item be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. Don't think we have any of those requests today, so I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's moved second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so we do have 3 items on the regular agenda. We did have a request for items 1 and 3 to be referred back to staff. So our first one is that authorization order of condemnation for Linder Road, Main Street to Deer Flat. Mr. Serdar.
Thank you, Madam President, Commissioners. Yes, the item number 1 needs to be remanded back to staff indefinitely.
So we'll need a motion for that. Shall I make a motion?
Correct.
Madam President, I move that we defer item number 1. I suppose we can do them both at the same time, can we not? One motion?
Oh, we can't. Is that a yes, Steve?
Yeah.
2 different motions or 1 motion?
You can change what you're doing is impacting the agenda, so you can change the agenda items by motion.
Okay, so I move that we defer item number 1 and item number 3 on the regular agenda to back to staff
Indefinitely.
indefinitely.
I second that.
Been moved second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, so then we'll go over to item number 2, which is the authorization order of condemnation for State Street and Pierce Park Lane, ACHD project number 317044.002, parcel 4.
Thank you, Madam President, Commissioners. For the record, David Serdar, right-of-way supervisor for ACHD. This is a condemnation, decision briefing, and public hearing. The condemnation is for the State Street and Pierce Park Lane project. The owner of the parcel 4 is Audrey Kwan. This project is part of the 2024 to 2028 integrated 5-year work plan, and construction is scheduled to begin in fiscal year 25. Here we can see a vicinity map of the acquisition. As you can see, Pierce Park is, we're on State Street here. Pierce Park is over to the right. We can see the golf course kind of across the street and to the south. The Merritt condemnation that was in front of you a couple of weeks ago is just to the left of this property on this picture. Here is the site map of the property. This property used to be a car lot. It's been vacant for some time. There is a new tenant in the property, which we just were able to verify yesterday. But that is not the owner. The property size before the acquisition is 0.740 acres. Our fee is 0.05 acres. There's also a permanent easement, which is only 0.008 acres, extremely small. And we also have a temporary construction easement. The property size after is 0.681 acres.
In summary on this negotiation, ACHD's staff has sent the offer. We've also sent a 10-day letter.
Sorry, Dave, keep going.
Okay, we've sent an offer, we've sent a 10-day letter. We've also sent correspondence regarding a sign in the right-of-way. All these have been sent with return receipt, which has been signed by the property owner. They do live in California. We have not had any other response. So we know they're getting the information, but they are not responding to our staff. And that's fundamentally what the issue here is. So we have not been able to locate a phone number like we normally do. We have resources where we look for a phone number. So usually in these cases, the best thing to do is to move that forward for condemnation, and then they get served officially, and at that time, usually things move forward. So it is staff recommendation that we declare the acquisition area necessary for the project as right-of-way and public use, authorize staff to proceed with the condemnation action, and execute an order of condemnation for the acquisition area. I will remain standing for any comments or questions.
Thank you, Dave. And I forgot to mention, I opened the public hearing. And so do we have questions for staff? Commissioner Goldthorpe?
Yeah, I'm just curious, the new tenant there, do you know if they're aware of these proceedings?
I do not know if they're aware. Our obligation is usually to contact the property owner. But in fact, we've actually had problems where property owners have got upset at us for contacting tenants. And it's just a tenant that I had staff out there reviewing all of the sites along there for signs, and they noted that someone had moved into that business. So my recollection had been vacant for quite some time.
Commissioner Hanson?
So, Madam President and Dave, just to confirm, the ACHD has acquired, purchased the property to the east and to the west, correct? We have a lot purchased, Madam President, Commissioner Hanson. We have moved forward with a condemnation to the west. We have, the east is a car wash, which we've been doing. We've had extensive negotiations with the property owner in ways to alleviate any damages to that car wash. We are preparing an offer right now. Thank you.
Commissioner McKinney?
Thank you. Yes, Dave, what are the appraised values? What's the cost and dollar numbers that we're looking at for this?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, we're looking at $93,000 for the entire acquisition, which includes improvements, temporary construction easement, and fee acquisition.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions for staff? Okay, is the property owner here online? Stacy, is there anyone that would like to testify on this issue?
No, there are not.
Okay, well then I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing. Commissioners?
Madam President,
Commissioner Goldthorpe?
I make a motion that we approve item number 2, which is the parcel number 4, property owner Audrey paying Kwan for the order of condemnation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Serdar.
Thank you.
All right, so then moving into public communications, is there anyone that would like to address the commission at this time? All right, well, with that, meeting is adjourned. We will roll right into our post-commission agenda. And that first item is the Warm Springs Avenue C to Windsong Drive concept update. Edinson.
Good afternoon, Commission. Good afternoon, Commission. My name is Edison Bautista, ACAZ Senior Transportation Planner. And in today's meeting, staff would like to provide an update on the Warm Springs Avenue C to Windsong Drive concept study. This will include an update on the current status of the project, an overview of the concept, and preliminary data on what we heard from the public. This is an information briefing only, so no decisions required from the commission at this time. In this presentation, we will go over the purpose and goals, project progress, the Warm Springs, each of the three concepts developed, the public outreach number 2, and next steps. In the right side of this slide, we present the planning area for the Warm Springs concept. This is broken down in 3 segments: from Avenue C to Costin Street to Old Penitentiary, and Old Penitentiary to Winston Drive. The project goals are consistent with ACHD community program, safety, and livable street performance measures goals. This includes improvements to the intersection crossing improvements, road infrastructure improvement to meet ADA, road enhancements to enhance safety for all users, and coordination with the neighborhood living adjacent and surrounding along the corridor. We would like to take an opportunity to recognize the team that participated in this project, including ACHD staff, our planning team, capital project, communication, our traffic team, and environmental, as well as our partner agencies that work along us with the City of Boise, Boise School District, Valley Regional Transit, and our consultant HDR. Back in September 2023, staff presented to the commission an update with the findings of the existing condition and the outcome of public outreach number 1. Since then, staff and the consultant have worked diligently to develop the concepts, alternatives, and conducted the public involvement number 2. Staff and the consultant will use the feedback received during the public outreach to review and refine the preferred concept. Just as a reminder, we wanted to highlight the top themes that we heard through the public involvement number 1. Our overarching goal through that PM number 1 was to collect public feedback to identify what those areas of concerns and the public's priority for this section of Warm Springs. We use this, so using the themes of theme number 1 and reviewing it with engineering best practices, we developed 3 concepts and alternatives for the Warm Springs Avenue study. These 3 concepts balance 3 major themes that we heard from the community. This included the enhancement of bicycle facilities, increase the number of crossings and safety, and preserve the community character and historic nature of the corridor. With this, the first concept consists of a combination of two treatments. This is a parking protected bike lane on the north side and bike lanes on the south side, with targeted crossing improvements at key intersections. This included Strawhan, Walnut, Costin Street, Homestead, and Old Penitentiary, just to name a few. The image showcased the parking protected bike lanes, where bike lanes are located between the sidewalk and the parking, and this remains at a pavement level, which is typically separated with a buffer or a vertical element, as shown in the image. You can see this example of this treatment at Capitol Boulevard in front of City Hall, for example.
Ensign.
Yes, ma'am.
But I think, just for clarifying, so you were saying it's possible for it to have a protection for concept 1 in between the parking. So it wasn't a definite that it was what the concept was. We're going to have would have an actual vertical and protected element. It was just if.
Madam President, our initial concept, absolutely. So that our initial take is that it can be a vertical element, like a curb in that sense. And as an example, it was that depending on at this point, based on the public feedback, we will look at what exactly that infrastructure will be, whether it's a buffer, if it's a different type of element. But we wanted to show something that was something we could reference in the area.
Right. I'm just wondering, because I think when you put a definite example like that helps people then conceptualize, okay, this is what I would expect, which is why I do or don't like this design. So I just want to make sure that you haven't, so what I'm hearing is you haven't come up with that defined, this is exactly what it would be, but it could be a couple of these options. Is that what that is then? Is that what you explained to folks?
Correct, Madam President.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
The concept number one, maximize the available space of the existing road section, and includes it maximizes available space with minimal impacts. The second concept consists of separating bicycle facilities on both sides of the roadway. These continue to show improvements at key intersections. Compared to concept one, the main difference is the bike lane is located behind the curb at the same level of the sidewalk. This concept increased the impacts on the existing road section compared to concept number one. The third concept focuses on crossing improvement and traffic calming elements. This includes bulb outs. The concept maintains existing cross section and present the least amount of property impacts. These three concepts were presented to the public with the goal to make any improvement interchangeable. What we mean is that if there's an improvement in one concept that is preferred in another concept, this can easily be incorporated. Similarly, whole segments can be interchangeable as well. In those cases, the focus will be in the improvement of the transitions. In this slide, we wanted to showcase some of those crossing improvements and locations. These are, for example, in Strahan Avenue, we're looking into having is complemented the existing marked crossing with RFBs and bulb outs, for example, in option one, and for option two, having the RFB combined with medians on the center at the center of the roadway. Then on Costin, we have two options similarly with a marked crossing with an RFB. And for option two, we have a two-stage crossing, since we tried to align that crossing in a more perpendicular format in that case. Then for Adams Elementary, we included the upgrade of the existing signal currently located in front of the Adams Elementary to a more modern type of crossing, which is a pedestrian hybrid beacon. In that scenario, we had the first option combined with bulb outs, and for option two, we have the bulb outs and a raised intersection for that location.
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
Yes, Edinson, they're on option number one or two, the hybrid beacon on the left. Is that going to be within a school zone with appropriate speed limits? And do you know if there's going to be a crossing guard?
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, certainly because it's open proximity. I believe so, because it's in close proximity to Roosevelt Elementary. I don't know if it's gonna include a crossing guard. I would have to consult with the school for that.
Thanks.
And Commissioner Goldthorpe, you're talking about the Strahan Avenue?
No, Adams Elementary.
Oh, my apologies.
Oh, so that is in a school zone.
So for Adams Elementary, there's a crossing guard at that location. And in here, we wanted to present the major intersection improvements. These are majorly focused in two locations. This is Walnut Street and Old Penitentiary. At Walnut Street, due to the level of complexity at that location, we presented three options. This is a combination of traffic signal, raised intersections, and also trying to continue to limit the amount of impacts. We proposed option three, where it was mostly consistent with what exists currently, improving the crossing on both locations and emphasizing the presence of the bike movements as well at that intersection. And then for Old Penitentiary, our proposal, based on what we heard from the community, there was a lot of interest on a roundabout proposal. So we explored that option for that intersection moving forward. In this slide, staff wants to share with the commission the preliminary data that was compiled from the public involvement number one, especially the survey, the online survey component of that public outreach. On the left, we present the data collected, that concept 2 was the preferred concept over concept 1 and 2. This data does not include the comments provided during the in-person meeting, which we are currently reviewing and compiling, that will be incorporated as next steps in the process. While concept 2, we recognize that while concept 2 is a preferred option, staff recognize that there is element within the other concept that the public might be interested to see moving forward. So that's where the interchangeable aspect of the concepts come into play. On the right, we showcase some of the common themes that we heard from the public in this second outreach effort. Again, Commission, the comments received will be reviewed and will be used to update the preferred alternative. As next step, staff and the consultant will continue to review the public comments and continue to meet with stakeholders to address questions and concerns. We'll proceed to refine the preferred alternative ahead of public involvement number 3. And after that outreach, we will come back in front of the Commission in the month of October to bring in front of the Commission the draft concept with the proposed improvements for adoption consideration. With this, staff concludes its presentation and it's time for any questions.
Thank you, Edinson. I have one question before seeing what the other commissioners have, but could you speak to the concerns about parking laws? Because it didn't seem that, especially if in concept 2, parking was maintained. So have you done an assessment on the number of parking spaces that would be removed with each concept, and what would those be?
Madam President, absolutely. So for concept, for all the concept, we try to minimize the amount of impact for the on-street parking. The majority of the loss will be near intersections where we're placing the bulb outs, and we're limiting that. We're making it clear that those are locations where on-street parking currently doesn't exist for example, but it might be used. So those are the locations that you would expect to see that removal on-street parking for the most part. And for some concept, we propose the element of a left turn that might, depending on the data that the comment, might be removed. So certainly we're still refining many elements within the concept that might bring back a lot of that parking that was might have be lost in some concept, but will be present moving forward.
Yeah, because I mean, if that's looking at the 3 intersections, right? Because it's 3 intersections, like that's maybe what, 4 parking spots at each intersection?
Correct.
And then there's how many? There's a ton of parking along that entire corridor. So, okay. Thank you.
And staff have been doing parking analysis along the corridor. Certainly, there's still those elements, like for example, during an event, that we'll still follow up and make sure that we're tracking how much parking is being used along the corridor.
And I think obviously, I just want to confirm that you'll be assessing not only the parking elements, but the actual high counts of cars and bicyclists with like massive events that happen at, you know, the botanical garden and the penitentiary. Because that's what I was thinking, like the roundabout is a great idea, but I'm just curious about the queuing of all the cars that comes with those events that happen. So looking forward to more data and a report that speaks to that and how it can handle it. Thank you. Commissioner Hanson.
Yeah, Madam President and Edinson, thank you for moving forward on this. This is great. Long time coming. Most of the focus in your analysis, most because it's more complex, is on the western portion, west of Penitentiary. But east of Penitentiary, there's opportunities, much more opportunities, because there isn't the front on housing nearly, there's very little. But there's a great deal of demand and request that there be consistency of the bike facilities, the sidewalks. There's uncompleted sidewalks on both sides, so that it works. And then a crossing over at the golf course where the major trail coming off goes through that little neighborhood. And then there's a crosswalk, but it's not got a RRFB. So that's, I think, one of the key things. The other is, of course, the consistent outreach to the property owners in front of their houses so that they know what's coming, what it will look like. I mean, this street hasn't been touched since before it was a state highway. So now is the opportunity to help people understand who live there and I know the historic district has volunteers, the neighborhood association has volunteers, our walking and pedestrian, our advisory committees. So if you want to use some volunteers to help do that outreach, in order to get that, so people understand well in advance, for example, are they going to not have one parking spot near their house, so that knowledge is there. It's not their parking spot, it's a public right of way, but it's still so that the knowledge level of everybody who lives on that street is so in depth. And I know our staff is stretched thin. Christy did an amazing job knocking on every single door on Rose Hill, which was huge. And there's even more houses on this segment. So figure out a way of tapping into that expertise, because I think they'll be willing to do it.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Hanson, if I can build on to that point, because I was looking at, Edison, I know it's easy to slip into this habit when this is like the language that you're so comfortable with and know so much about how to use it, but the way that the concepts 1 and 2 were shown graphically and the descriptions beneath them, I had to really read it like 3 times to figure out what was different about those two. And then hearing from you that it's like, oh, well, there's a couple different options that it could look like, but it would be protected, right? So I worry that folks really don't know what that means, even though you had one example of what that could look like. And so I really think that we need that extra education, that extra couple steps. And just because I'm just not confident that the average person is going to really know what that actual design looks like, and the trade-offs or the pros and cons that come with it. Because especially when we looked at the comment summary that you had, I would have thought that the concept 1 would have been the top priority, but it wasn't. So that's what kind of gives me pause, that maybe we need to kind of assess how we can make sure that a lot of more information is shared with them, and so they're actually more informed about what's coming and how to actually weigh it.
Madam President, I would agree. I think we learned from our experience on cost, and I think our staff did a great job coming up with, this is exactly what it's going to look like in front of your property or your neighbor's property, so that they understood all the details, instead of a broader, to take the concept and then think, how is this going to affect the piece that I'm most familiar with? We actually showed that. And so the description, was graphically described. It was provided in a way that really helps, so that then you don't have to make that leap, like Commissioner Pickering said, of how is this design, this generic design of whatever the 1, 2, or 3 is going to look like on this street, on this segment that I'm familiar with on Warm Springs. So, it's probably the most significant street in Ada County that we are going to be redesigning and repairing. So it's going to be frustrating, but I think we can get it right. And the more there's a sense of ownership by the people who live there. Okay, I get it. I can see how it moves, and they get excited. And then we can reach the point of, why isn't this happening tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
Madam President, if I may, thank you for, Madam President, Commissioner, thank you for your comments. And certainly that's something that we continue to improve as we do those outreach efforts. One of the things that we wanted to highlight is that as part of the material that we provide to the public, beyond the map and the descriptions, we provide roll plots that we're showing the specific improvements and how they will be looking like. Certainly there's elements within the, like you were saying, where there's different type of treatments that we can do within that buffer, for example, that we could do differently. But at the same time, we do, for example, renderings after each of the concept where we show like an example of what that cross-section will look like as we develop with that example that we provided, for example. So certainly we will continue to explore opportunities to improve that way we present that material. And
I think that's great, Edson. And I think that's gonna really help folks that live, especially folks that live along the corridor or adjacent to Warm Springs, because like what Commissioner Hansen was saying, I used to live in the East End when I first moved to Boise, and it's up there with Harrison Boulevard. It's an iconic, thoroughfare in Boise's, streetscape, if you would. So I think like those examples are gonna be really helpful, because folks can need to see it, that this is not what they do for their day jobs, and they're gonna wanna know, how is this going to reflect the, the culture, the feel of our neighborhood, not just like for today, but for generations. 'Cause I think too, to your point, is once they see it,
Yeah.
and it's what there's, once we can refine and incorporate their general sense of where they want to go with this road improvement, I think that, to your point, they're just going to be like, why wasn't this done 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah.
So that's the goal, right?
Obviously the big thing at the intersection of Walnut and Warm Springs is the traffic light. And a generic traffic light is something a lot of people say, no way. But there are historic neighborhoods in even older cities across the country that have historic traffic lights. So the sense of that the historic district actually plays a role in deciding what that traffic light might look like. If that's the direction we go, it's not just a generic one. It's actually something that both meets standards, but is also probably unique. We probably don't have one in this city. The second is, and this is really to do with all the stuff that's underneath Warm Springs. So having lived in this town long enough to know that something's always failing underneath Warm Springs. I think there are 4 districts or 3 districts, hot water, artesian water districts. There's pipes under there. It used to be when I first moved here, the whole street would steam because there's hot water flowing underneath it. I think they've replaced a lot of that. So even though if we're going to do this major overhaul, and it's one and done, are there some things that need to be done by these other entities that we can make sure is done and one and done for 100 years, so that's the thing that you just know on Warm Springs, something's going to be ripped up because some pipe has failed, some utilities failed, and it's unique throughout I think it's 3, maybe 4 water districts that have their facilities underneath Warm Springs. So I think it'll be worth the effort to negotiate and make sure all of those are made as long-term improvements as possible. And because the last thing you want after spending a lot of money, finally getting it right, finding out there's some old pipe that fails and we have to dig up a portion of it.
Madam President.
Commissioner McKinney.
Edison, just quickly, of the 3 different concepts that were shown, generally speaking, which is the more expensive concept, which is the less expensive concept, just in general, as far as the way the plan looks at the moment?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, absolutely. The concept number 3 would be the
Least expensive?
the least expensive, and concept 2 would be the most expensive.
Okay, so the most expensive one is the one that appears so far that those who have given input have preferred. So that's the one that has the greatest approval.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other comments? Thank you, Ensign. All right. The next one is the master street map and corridor preservation. Ensign.
Thank you, Madam President.
That's like you stepped away and I was like, wait.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. My name is Edison Bautista, ACHA Senior Transportation Planner. In today's meeting, staff will provide an update on the master street map following ACHA's discussions with the City of Meridian and the outcomes of those conversations. This is an information briefing only, and no decision is required from the Commission at this time. Staff would like to highlight that the City of Meridian staff is currently present in today's meeting and are available to address any questions from the Commission. Throughout this presentation, staff will go over the purpose and goals of the master street map, talk briefly about the corridor preservation program, present regarding the request received from the City of Meridian in the August letter, as well as discussions that happened afterwards that request, and the proposed master street map changes based on the City of Meridian request and next steps. In this slide, we present the purpose and goals, and we wanted to highlight one of the main purposes of the master stream, which is that it established a right-of-way preservation map for Ada County. The corridor preservation is informed by the master street map, which establishes preservation width for the ultimate build-out of ACHD transportation facilities. The corridor preservation program, using the information to purchase right-of-way for future projects as development or redevelopment occurs. In this slide, we highlight some of the benefits of the overall program. Back in August 2023, the City of Meridian submitted a letter requesting ACHD to evaluate the Mellin corridor to increase its right-of-way preservation to 100 feet. Following this request, ACHD and the City of Meridian discussed the proposed changes, and the city expressed interest in implementing a 100 feet right-of-way for all major road corridors, including sections of McMillan Road, Victory Road, Locust Road, and Meridian Road. In this slide, we list the specific section for each of those corridors. The proposed changes would only focus on the City of Meridian area of impact, and will propose to increase the right-of-way preservation on all major streets from 75 feet to 100 feet. The map on the right is an illustration of the right-of-way preservation map for the City of Meridian area of impact. And we highlight the roads in a blue teal that is being discussed for the right-of-way preservation change. Just as a clarification, Commission, in today's work session, staff is not modifying the master street map, but following up on the city request and the proposed changes that we mentioned today. This request is similar to the one reviewed by the Commission back in June of last year, where the City of Eagle requested the right-of-way preservation of Beacon Light Road. As next step, staff will continue coordination with the City of Meridian, and in spring, staff will bring back the proposed changes for commission adoption consideration. With this, staff concludes its presentation and stand for any question.
Thanks, Ensign. Commissioners.
Madam President, Edmondson, in the request by the City of Meridian to increase the right-of-way preservation on those various corridors, do we have any idea of a ballpark cost? How many millions of dollars is it going to take to go to that, additional right-of-way compared to what's currently in the plan? Do we have any idea on that?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, we didn't do any sort of calculation regarding that additional acquisition of right-of-way, since this request, the master street map just guide in the scenario if there's a development, redevelopment, or depending on the need of the corridor. So at this point, we don't have that value of cost.
So basically what happens is if we do modify the master street map in accordance with this request, it essentially becomes a guide for future planning and so on, but it doesn't necessarily mean we immediately go out and start purchasing right-of-way to preserve all of this. It's just kind of now as things go forward, this is the intention. Is that essentially what we're saying?
Madam President, Commissioner, correct.
Okay.
Edmondson, really quick. So what coordination is there left to do with the City of Meridian?
And staff requested the City of Meridian to prepare a letter of support for the changes that are recommended. City of Meridian mentioned that they would like to follow up with their transportation committee and also the City Council to prepare such letter, and that will happen in the next 2 months, April and May.
But they already provided a letter, so that's what I don't understand. Why they need like a second letter.
Madam President, for the record, Krista Enselman, Planning Supervisor. So the letter that we have received to date from the City of Meridian was specifically only on the McMillan corridor. It was that larger conversation that happened at the joint meeting, that a general conversation happened about the entire area of impact. We just want to make sure that we're being responsive to the requested needs of the city. So we want to give them time to provide formal written feedback on the entire area of impact.
Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Commissioner Gold, actually.
Oh, thanks. This is kind of goes along with Commissioner McKinney's question, but have we assessed the percent that this change would impact that is developed versus undeveloped? Does that?
Madam President, Commissioner Gold, we haven't done that assessment. We have recognized segments where that situation is currently, we see that situation happening, but no direct assessment of the number of impacts or of those sorts.
Commissioner Hanson.
Madam President Edmondson, thanks. I appreciate this approach where when cities want to see some changes in the master street map, we don't wait until some future date to sort of put them all together and require some sort of comprehensive plan change or update. So I know we've done this for Eagle and Boise and Meridian. So this makes sense. I really appreciate this. One thing that struck me about McMillan and the opportunities with the McMillan, because of course the right-of-way that would be acquired is basically on one side or the other is a canal, because the canal follows it. In fact, it goes from one side and then crosses over and goes down the other side. But we've also updated our policy and approach to not build middle turn lanes that aren't used, the center turn lanes, when we say 5 lanes. But with a lot of these new subdivision areas, there's only a few places where you turn. And so a middle continuous turn lane doesn't make sense, you know? So we're updating our approach to say, you just, why have right of way that's completely unused? So here I'm wondering whether there might be an opportunity, instead of covering over the entire length of that canal in order to accommodate and then still leave a center turn lane that's not used, is to think about working with the canal district, the irrigation district, to have that canal in the middle so that there's only the covering of where you're turning, so that the canal is actually part of, and you don't have all that extra space. Just an opportunity, since we're moving towards making sure that we don't have unused center turn lanes, and that we still have this issue. I know it was extraordinarily expensive when Collister interchange got built to cover over a significant portion of that canal. That was a huge expense. So this is an opportunity to think about that, so that when we say right-of-way preservation, that's one thing, but the other is the total cost of actually implementing it may not be as high if we think creatively about using and combining uses. And there would have to be all kinds of agreements with what jurisdiction would be using that, but that would be the case.
Madam President, Commission, just to clarify a little bit, the right-of-way preservation is a determination that's used during our development process. So we have that 100 feet of right-of-way, or if the commission approved that 100 feet of right-of-way, that's how much we would preserve during that time. The decision on how it's built or where it's built or how we use that right-of-way occurs through the integrated 5-year work plan process. So at this point, we don't need to make those types of decisions. All this would be is that moving forward, as a property redevelops, that's the amount of land that we would require. Just for clarification.
Thanks, Ryan. And of course, in this area, a lot of that property is already developed. So it would be about how to use, rather than take property, use what we already have. Thanks.
Edison, I noticed you say spring, but is that May? Because that's like the last, that's May basically. So is that the more like firm month that we would be able to see this come back to us?
Madam President, as soon as we have coordinated with the City of Meridian, we'll have a definite date. That would be the date we'll come back.
And the reason for my question is I'm of course, yes, very supportive of getting that letter, very supportive of trying to work through Meridian's processes to make sure all of those various parties are informed and have weighed in. But I just don't want us to delay because we've had this conversation multiple times and really want to do good on our conversations. So anything else? All right. Thank you, Edson. Okay. The third one, it's our fiscal year 25 budget overview by division. Paul.
Commissioners, for the record, Paul Daigle, Chief of Staff. Welcome to the first of many of your budget discussions. Today, we're going to give you a very high-level discussion. I'll start it off with administration, and then the deputy directors will follow. What you're not going to see is really hard numbers. They're pretty squishy at this point. Next slide. What we're doing is assuming that our total revenue next year is going to be in the neighborhood of $171 million. We are also, per your direction, not accounting for any 3% property tax increase, but we did take new construction. We're planning on 3% COLA, 5% dental, and a 5% medical increase. Next slide. In administration, I have 65 people over 7 departments, a little over $18 million with the total budget. Next slide. Here, this breaks it down into each individual department. You can see the budgets are relatively flat. So, next slide. For the administration itself, we don't have any big things planned, so we're just going to try to keep doing what we normally do, and that's stay behind the scenes, do everything that we need to do, and if everybody forgets about us, we've done our job. So, next. IT is going to be helping migrate to the new facility. We have that HRIS system that we're looking at, and we're going to be continuing to upgrade the wireless controllers in some of our new facilities. Next slide. Legal's legal. As the legal department says, we always do a good job of having the lowest budget, so they're going to continue that job. Next. The big thing for HR is going to be the new HRIS system, so that's going to get them into the 21st century, getting away from a lot of paper. So, next slide. Facilities. I know the salaries for those folks are a little small, but they've got an awful lot on their plate. As you know, we have the Cloverdale Decant, Apple, Ustick is on board, and we'll be involved in some other things as well. So, next slide. Communications, continuing with the rebranding and working on the new website. Next slide. Commuter ride, and we have that in addition to their rebranding. They're going to try to buy 15 vans. The local match is about $200,000. Once we get to the line item budgets further down the road, you'll see they're going to plan on about a 20% increase because they are keeping their vans longer. It's harder and harder to get those great big vans. Next slide. And with that, if you have no questions for administration, I will introduce, I don't know, who's going next? Ryan's going next.
Commissioner McKinney?
Just one quick question, Paul, back on the commuter ride, that local match number on the vans, that meaning that's how much we pay?
Correct.
And the rest is provided from what, federal government grant?
Yeah, the federal government monies through either Compass or there's another program that we get money through VRT. So.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Commissioner Hanson?
That is, Federal Transit Administration. Yeah. FHWA provides most of our, but it's FTA. We have
FTA.
Just the TMC, the new facility out there on Franklin. Where are we? We're not moving into the facility in the next fiscal year, are we? Or
it's going to be in the January, February timeframe, Dale?
So we are. So
spring? Okay.
So that it is within this budget.
It's going to be there's going to be part of it.
Okay. So that's the big big cost for the TMC. Yeah, I'm eager to head out there once the weather's permits us to go take a look at how it's progressed.
With a little bit of luck, if it stays pretty dry over the weekend, maybe next week we can get some boots on the ground without getting too muddy. So.
Yeah, that's a big big deal. I know.
Yes, it is.
Because we provide all that services to state and local facilities.
That's a fact. Okay. If there are no other questions, I'll introduce Ryan.
Okay, Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Madam President, Commission. I'll present to you the Development and Technical Services budget. Within this group, we have 157 and a half people. We have one part-time employee. There are 5 departments: our administration, safety engineering, that new department that you approved this fiscal year, environmental, traffic engineering, and operations and development services, with an overall budget of just shy of 20 million. Here's the breakdown in the current budget between 24 and 25. Just to provide a little bit of clarity, with the standing up of a new department in the middle of a fiscal year, it's created some fancy numbers. So thanks to Christine for pulling this together. As you see here, these are the individual budgets. Some of these are grouped together within departments. So safety, engineering, and design are one. Traffic operations and engineering and traffic engineering are also one. So administration, that's me and my admin. If we call this a department, I think I have the smallest department, but we'll go with that. But we have no special projects this year. Safety engineering, this is about 14 employees. They are responsible for all the maintenance and drainage improvements that our maintenance team does, as well as those similar to what Commissioner Hansen mentioned earlier today. There are a number of other activities, including our safety projects, the Safe Sidewalk Program, our Leading Pedestrian Interval Initiative, the gap filling connected with chip seal. Those will come out in more detail in the capital budget. Really, we have to work through the capital budget and see what levels of funding we have for those, but generally we're in the area of about 4 million, 4 to 5 million for those types of projects. But with that, we're able to complete hundreds of projects using temporary materials and other types of changes that team's working on. Environmental, you see the salaries there. No major projects at this time. They continued to work on the vegetation of our facilities and making our storm drain facilities work better. Traffic engineering and operations, you see the salaries there. There's about 60 individuals who work for this team, including our traffic operations. They'll continue the rapid project implementation activities that they were a big part of this last year. Finalizing and moving into that Franklin Traffic Operations Center is a big activity for them. And then with what the commission approved this last couple weeks is the new signal controller deployment. And we're excited to see the impact that will have both in moving vehicles as well as assisting with our leading pedestrian interval and some of the other activities that we have. Just to mention, one of the benefits of that new deployment is they'll be able to prepare every signal to make it an easier flip of the switch once we complete the capital components of those LPI. Development services, this is about 55 individuals. They oversee all development, and all of this is paid for by fees that are paid through the development process, but the major project is completing the CIP within next fiscal year. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Ryan.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Dale Caparis. I'm the Acting Deputy Director of Planning and Projects this week, so I get the duty to do this presentation. Planning and Projects has 71 employees divided over 3 different departments, and we have a total budget of a little over 8.3 million. This is currently what our budgets are showing. The administration is Justin and his administrative assistant. Their salaries are $330,000 roughly. And then their major projects are planning and projects initiative, and then incorporate all your decisions into our projects. The planning group has a salary of a little over 1.5 million, and you can see their major projects for the year. A couple concept studies that they're going to be working on this year are Fairview Avenue Bridge, as well as the Eckerd Bridge replacements. Capital projects and right-of-way, their salaries are about 3.3 million. And then there's a listing there of some of our major projects. Lake Hazel and Eagle usually wouldn't be shown up there, but after what happened a few months back, it's back on the list now. And then last fall, the construction group moved from DTS over to capital projects, and we added the utilities group to it. Their salaries are 3.5 million, and their primary duty is construction management of all the capital projects that the district has. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, Commissioners, for the record, Jennifer Behringer, Deputy Director of Maintenance. For my staffing, we're looking at 180 people across 5 departments with a total budget just shy of 40 million. This is our budget that we're looking at right now. Above the top 2/3 are what falls into my specific budget, and then we have oversight of the Apple and Eustick Yard, but those are in the capital budget. My administrative team, again, me and my admin and a couple others, no major expenditures on the admin side. Fleet services, as always, our major expenditures are equipment and covering leases for that equipment as well. Parts, shop supplies, tools, and fuel all falls in this budget. For maintenance operations, rather than showing each yard separately, I put it all on a single slide so you can kind of see how it all fits together. The major expenditures are our chip seal and our winter operations, and we split those expenditures up between Adams and Cloverdale for who pays for which portion of those. Other than that, the other major expenditures are our asphalt, gravel, pipe, and concrete, as well as any professional services such as flagging or contractual services like the manhole collar, lifts, and things like that. For our Apple and Eustick Maintenance Complex development, looking into the next year, we are going to start seeing some of those construction costs. So that's going to be the major player. So paying for a project manager, a CMGC, and then constructing. Our goals as we go into the next year are to keep the development and construction of those new complexes on track, as well as to continue to build out our third chip seal team. So adding more people and equipment to that Eustick yard. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Commissioner McKinney.
Yeah, Jennifer, real quick, if you could go back to, I think it was your third slide that just showed the overall chart table. There we go, right there. So it looks like your budget has going down by like $6 million. What are the major reasons for that?
Right now, the main difference is fleet. So everything for the most part is incrementally up. Fleet services for our current budget year is a little bit bigger because of the encumbrances that carried over. As we get closer to the end of this fiscal year and delivery schedules, we anticipate those will shuffle between the 2 years a little bit. But right now it's still a little bit squishy on what equipment we're going to be bringing into FY25.
Okay, so we just basically in the 24 budget, we had a big slug of expenses on new fleet, new vehicles, new equipment.
And it's because a lot of that heavy, like the big dollar ones, pushed into this fiscal year.
Because they were delayed.
Everything's kind of moving on the production lines and delivery schedule. So every year we go through this where we plan to have things deliver in this year, and then whatever outside forces take hold, things move around. For this particular year, we have a couple of large deliveries that are hovering right around that fiscal line. So they could go either way.
Okay, so next year is looking to be a, maybe, I guess, lower than average year, and we could in the future have some more years that come along where that jumps up again?
I think there's still a lot of question marks on that because we need to determine our manpower, how manpower is going to change next year. We have to determine what's going to happen with the Ustig yard and the build out. So a lot of those outside forces on what does the future look like in those things will help to inform what we end up buying in our fleet.
Okay, great, thank you.
Commissioner Hanson?
So, yeah, thank you. The question, obviously, going into the chip seal season is, can we stand up enough chip seal teams? We couldn't do it last year. So how will we? I mean, obviously, the market determines that, but we may need to budget more in order to be able to do that because it's another 7 years before we cycle back to do those.
President Pickering, Commissioner Hanson, we are budgeted for 2 chip seal teams, and that's the intent, is to go into 2 chip seal teams. As we grow the 3rd chip seal team, we're able to take a little bit more on. We only budgeted for the 2 this year, but we're going to see how the season goes, what the flaggers look like. But our full intent is to go back to the two chip seal teams this year until we get the full U-stick grade crew to do a 3rd team.
And so we're not planning to go back to those of the zone from last year that we didn't do because we only stood up 1 team. We're not going to address those for 7 years. Is that the?
That is correct. Yeah. President Pickering, Commissioner Hanson, when we're in the zone, that's the focus for that zone. Our goal is to do 100% of arterials and collectors every time we're in that zone, and then about 50% of the residentials. If we don't get to the residentials in that year, we'll either come back in the next 7 years, or there are other pavement preservation strategies that are looked at depending on what the quality of the road looks like.
Good, thanks.
Any other questions?
Just a side note, I'm curious, obviously, with the next phase of budget presentations to see just some of those more details around the Apple Yard and all that good stuff. So.
Yes, President Pickering, we will be bringing those to the commission.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, Director, that's it? All right, well, with that, we'll see everyone next week. Thank you.
I didn't want an executive.